What does Escape the Backrooms hide from the player off camera in the electrical station, offices, hotel, and level fun areas? Escape the Backrooms is a deep dive into multiplayer liminal space terror, and in this video, we'll be breaking the game a bit to show you things you're not normally supposed to see. Like this massive white cube in level 5, or even a secret inaccessible room in level fun. There's a lot more than that as well, so I hope you enjoyed today's look behind the scenes of these frightening backroom locations. So after completing Pipe Dreams, you find yourself at the entrance to the electrical station. This is an abandoned electrical facility that is full of winding brick tunnels and lethal hazards. And as you progress through each substation, the danger only increases. This level is pretty large and full of dead ends, which only makes it harder to escape the horrifying entities within. So let's do a quick recap of everything that takes place inside this area. So upon loading into the level, we come to a locked gate. And just beside it is a breaker box showing which parts of the station have power. A door opens behind us, and from here, we must make our way through this labyrinth of tunnels, turning on breaker boxes in order to finish the level. After the first 3 boxes have been turned on, we can continue to the next substation, where we will have our first encounter with the hounds, this level's entity. We can blind them with our flashlight temporarily, and doing so 3 times will result in them running away. We must also be careful not to step in the puddles that are charged with electricity, as they will immediately kill the player. After each breaker has been turned on, we then head all the way back to the starting area, where we then continue on to the abandoned offices. Okay, now let's restart this level and turn those lights on. So of course, the first thing I want to do was get an aerial view of this map, and upon doing so, you can see how expansive it really is. Taking a look around this map with the lights on is a pretty cool experience as well, considering it's typically so dark you can't really see anything. Now, in the second substation, we can move the camera and take a closer look at the hound. And, well, they look like an old man and a dog fused together. They have patchy black hair on their head, jet black eyes, and crooked, sharp teeth. Also, they have what looks like a goatee stretching down to the bottom of their neck. Their body is mostly dog-like and is covered in what looks like cracks or scars. Overall, this abhorrent fusion of man and beast makes this level a lot scarier. It'll take more than a philosopher's stone to fix this creepy dude. If we watch from another perspective, we can see that this hound will remain unmoving until we hit their trigger, where they will begin to chase the player. We can also view their jump scare from a different angle. And the moment this animation occurs, they'll begin clipping through the ground. They freeze for just a moment before violently shaking their head as the player dies. Now, what's interesting is that throughout this facility, there are multiple hounds, but their AI doesn't always behave the same way. This first encounter was one of the level's scripted chases, where the hound will remain in place until you activate them. If we move the camera though, we'll find that there are already hounds spawned into these later rooms. These other hounds are not coded to appear when a trigger is hit, but instead they are loaded into the map and will patrol indefinitely. Heading back to that first encounter, we can also see that the scripted hound will unload as soon as they return to their starting position. Finally, there's a third type of hound within this level that has a slightly different AI than others. These guys are loaded in standing in place and will only move when the player enters their line of sight. But now let's restart this level and break some stuff. So first I went back to the hallway where the first chase occurs, and I destroyed some of the floor near the end of the hallway. I was, of course, curious to see if they will still try to reach us now that they don't have a direct path to the player. After activating the hound, they began barreling towards us, and as you can see, our mission was a success as they fall into the darkness below, fated to endlessly run into the emptiness of space. Next, I decided that the best way to escape the hounds was to simply avoid them. So I moved the player up into the roof and did just that. As you can see, the roof is in fact walkable ground, but it's only visible from within this building. This means we can freely walk around without being spotted, and we can still see where we're going. I make my way over to that first hound encounter once more, and accidentally fall between the walls. These large hallways actually create several hidden alleys out of bounds. Only they are not meant to be accessed, so there's no way to escape if you fall in. So I have to restart the level. That's it for this particular level though, so let's blast the gate away and continue on. No hounds, no puddles, no worries. So after entering the stairwell, we end up at the abandoned offices, a large office building with a roaring thunderstorm outside. Now this level is a bit different than the previous since there are no entities present on this map, and in general, it seems that this level is used to stock up on resources. In order to reach the next level, we must solve a puzzle using some vending machines and then make our way to an area that is under surveillance. You have to avoid being spotted by security cameras as you make your way to the end of this level. And even if a single camera sees us, we must climb through the vents back to the start of the level. We'll also be greeted by this, friendly message. If we are successful in evading the cameras, the door will be unlocked and we can continue on to the next level. But now let's rewind time and take another look at this giant office location. To start, we can take a quick look at this map in its entirety, and it's actually pretty massive. There are tons of rooms to look through, and it's hard to fully grasp the size of this office space from inside. When looking through the office windows, you can see what looks like another area outside, only it never changes its position as we move around. It looks like a subway station of some kind, although it's hard to tell due to the rain covering them. The rain effects in the subway overlay are actually applied directly to the window, which is why they are no longer visible when flying out of bounds. The windows on the other side of the room have these black boxes surrounding them, and I believe these are used to prevent the player from seeing the rest of the map, because if we delete them, we can clearly see the building on the other side. This trick is also used near the hub entrance of this map, only this time it's a single black rectangle instead of multiple smaller ones. Speaking of the hub door, if we take a look inside, we'll see that it's a small, mostly empty bit of tunnel with black barriers on either side. Something else that's pretty cool is that the screens at the end of the level are in fact showing a live feed of this map. If I stand in front of them and move the camera over to the security monitors, I will be able to see myself in them. Even though the cameras are rotating back and forth in the level itself, the screens remain static and only update once every few seconds. Now as we play through the map, there are frequent flashes of lightning visible through the windows. Moving outside the map, we will see that this effect is actually a giant bolt of lightning. It is absolutely massive, stretching beyond the length of this entire map. We can also see what looks like sheets of rain falling as the lightning illuminates this area. It's pretty cool looking. Before we continue forward, I wanted to test a theory. If we walk across the roof of the office itself, will the cameras still be able to spot us? There's only one way to find out, so I moved the player onto the roof and began making my way to the exit. Eventually, I got to the security office, and somehow the cameras were still able to spot me, and the door remained locked. So I just break down the door and continue onward. In the next level, we find ourselves in the lobby of Terror Hotel. To quickly recap this level, we start by solving a puzzle using the paintings in order to unlock the door. Equipped with a can of bug spray, we have to find the male death moths, which we then hit with bug spray to acquire moth jelly. After collecting 3 jellies, we send them down the chute in the hallway, which gives us the keys required to use the elevator. Arriving on the next floor, our objective is to obtain 7 pieces of paper that are hidden in various hotel rooms. Only this time, we're not alone. There are both a hound and a skin stealer present on this map, and we must avoid them as we go. After putting all 7 papers in their slots, we look up at the ceiling to find a code has now appeared. We use this code on door 235's padlock and then enter the boiler room. In this part of the level, we're meant to traverse the maze in order to find the exit, being careful not to alert the female death moths along the way. Going back in time, I decided to take a quick look out of bounds. It turns out that the entirety of this map is placed on top of a large square of carpet, and by deleting one of the walls, I was able to take a step outside and explore these out-of-bounds areas. While exploring out here, I stumbled across 2 lamps that aren't attached to anything, just kind of floating beneath the top floor. There were also these red carpets that extended outwards from the ballroom doors. That's it for stuff out here, so let's head back into the map. So when we obtain the moth jelly, it is put into this wooden chute and is then lowered downwards. But I was curious how this worked behind the scenes. As you can see, the moment we press the button, it is moved down through the floor, where it then comes to a stop. After a brief moment, it just magically turns into a key. It then rises back up, where we are then able to grab it. There's really not much to look at on this floor though, so let's jump ahead. So the first thing I noticed here is that this map's design is a bit more interesting when viewed from the outside. Just like the previous area, this entire map sits on a flat plane that is textured with the hotel's carpet. Only, this level is not floating alone in the void. Instead, this area is surrounded by a massive white cube. There's also this large brick tower connected to the hotel's exit, and it stretches quite a ways into the sky. Taking a look inside it has a winding staircase that leads all the way up to the top, but it simply leads to a solid wall. Just outside this wall, there's a large black cube similar to the ones used to obscure the windows. Now, something that I didn't mention previously is that the game has a sandy bar, and when it gets low, you'll begin to hallucinate and see what I believe are smilers. As I was exploring this level, they begin appearing around my player, and here you can see from another angle what this looks like. Throughout this level, there are a few locked doors that we cannot access, and looking beyond them reveals that there is no room to enter. They actually just lead to this open area, and moving the player out here is pretty surreal. This empty space out of bounds feels like we're exploring the backrooms of the backrooms. We can also watch the skin stealer roam about, as the walls are transparent from the outside. They can't see us for the most part, but if we get too close, we can in fact trigger them to change into their monster form. But we're out of sight, and therefore out of mind, so he just keeps strutting along. So back in the lobby, I realized how few customers this hotel actually had, and so I invited some friends to help out the business. And by friends, I of course mean skin stealers. I spawned a bunch of them in and could immediately tell something was wrong. They're all standing at a 45-degree angle for some reason. They still functioned mostly normal, but they were doomed to be crooked forever. I strolled around the map for a bit and found a small group of them desperately trying to get through this door. Which leads me to a question. How many skin stealers does it take to open a door handle? I don't know either, but the answer definitely isn't 5. But that's it for this area, so let's check out the boiler room. During my original playthrough, it felt like this part of the game took me ages. And after zooming out this map, it makes a lot more sense why. From an aerial view, it doesn't look like much, so I meticulously removed each and every piece of the roof, and what you're seeing is the result. From what I counted, there are well over 40 different rooms to search in this area, not including the 3 trap doors containing death moth hives. Heading into the maze itself, we can take a closer look at the female death moth, and they're actually pretty cool looking. They're mostly gray with white stripes, and have what looks like a skull pattern on their back, as well as 2 large set of wings. They'll just sit here swaying back and forth until they spot the player, and we can watch from another perspective as this happens. As soon as they spot the player, they leap off the wall and begin chasing you. The moment they come in contact with the player, instead of jump scaring us, they will actually pick us up. For some reason, this was hilarious to watch in slow motion, as we just flail around while this fun-sized Mothra carries us through the halls. As you can see, the death moths will actually carry you to one of the hives instead of killing you instantly. When we get close, the door will open, and we are dropped inside where we die right away. So while we're here, let's take a closer look at the hive itself. So these hives are actually large, fleshy structures with an assortment of human remains tossed throughout. The walls are covered in what looks like hair? I'm not sure, but it's super gross. Hanging on the ceiling are 3 death moths, who are resting among what looks like entrails, upping the nope factor to previously unachieved levels. So after completing the boiler room, we actually end up back at level 2. Pipe dreams. Only this time we're going to head right instead of left. After walking for what feels like eternity, we are then chased by the Smiler again, and we must head into level fun to escape them. Now in level fun, we must carefully make our way through this children's birthday party without alerting the area's entity, the partygoers. There are a ton of these guys throughout this map, and the only way to get past them is to be completely silent while passing behind them. After reaching the end of this area, we come to a small party room where we find the entrance to the pool rooms. But heading back to the start of this area, let's take a closer look at the partygoers. They're mostly human-like, aside from their yellow skin and mouth lined with large, sharp teeth. Beyond this, their bottom jaw is split in the center, and their long tongues just kinda hang downwards. The partygoers' eyes are straight lines that look to be carved into their heads, resulting in one creepy monster. We can also get an overhead shot to this location, and it's basically a bunch of small rooms with small interconnecting hallways. Although the level is fairly simple and small, it's still incredibly difficult until you figure out the correct path forward. Before moving on, I want to cut out a section of the floor and drop these guys into the void. However, something I didn't realize is that the floor in these rooms is one giant piece of geometry. Meaning, the moment I cut out a piece of floor, everyone, including myself, was sent falling to our demise. Now what's funny is that they actually stay in their positions as they fall. And because of this, it looks like I'm being chased by a group of monstrous skydivers. Glorious! Now heading to the end of this level, there is a door off to the side that is typically inaccessible to the player. If we break it down, we'll find that there's a room behind it and it's fully modeled inside, containing 2 rows of tables with poppable balloons. To my knowledge, this is actually the arcade area from the older version of this game, but if you know for sure, let me know in the comments. Taking a look at the wall on the right hand side of this room, we'll find a rectangular hole, and I believe this used to lead to another hallway, which would then take you to the exit. I'm not sure if this room has any use in the current version of this game, but it's definitely a cool find. But with that, we've come to the end of levels 3 through 6 in Escape the Backrooms. We still have a ton of levels to cover and plenty of things to show off, so make sure you subscribe today so you won't miss my next upload. Thanks for watching everyone, and cheers!